I would like first and foremost, before anything else, running a conference, organizing a conference, setting up a conference is an incredibly large amount of work. Please give Harvinder and the rest of our volunteers a really big round of applause. Thank you, my friends.
What crushing chaos of corporate crisis.
I like alliteration. Incident response has been a passion of mine for a very long time. It was actually a really weird space in my life where I said, wow, I'm really good in a crisis. And then I had to have that introspection as well and say, crap, do I just create a crisis everywhere I go because I'm good in a crisis? Of course, we don't want that either. So I have a few characters that will come up on screen. I try things differently sometimes at BSides, and I love this audience. I love these people because you're willing to experiment as well and do things and see things that are a little bit different, because I spend my entire workday, 40 hours a week, in PowerPoint hell, and sometimes we can do something a little bit different. So that's what I thought I'd try. Over the last many years, since I left high school in like the early 1990s. Oh, my age. A lot has changed. A lot has, really evolved. And there's nothing in our businesses that we work in. Because we all work for a living. I'm assuming most of us work for a living, or we're going to school to go to work for a living. It's part of the life that we have, is we end up in technology crisis. Because as technology people, no matter where we land in the stack, at some point somebody says, Dakota, I know you know the IAM system, so we're pretty sure that we're under a credential stuffing attack, so I need you to solve this. I know it's 4:30 on a Friday, but bye. Good luck with that. But there's a broader implication to everything that we do in technology. So I was just trying to have a little bit of a broader look at all the ways that this affects us and all the ways that this affects everybody in our business. So that's part of why I'm messing with the mic, because our sound man is awesome. Look, he's right on it. Look at him go. That's great. We have different ways that we interact. Everything in our business runs on technology now. So how do we help organizations navigate it when the big one happens? So when I'm talking about incident response and corporate crisis, I'm talking about bigger than Sev 1. We all get those people in our businesses who say, Sev 1, we got a Sev 1, everybody, all hands on deck, it's Sev 1. And then you find out that actually it really isn't all that big of a deal, and you solve it before you go home at 4:45 on a Friday. Or there's the big one, which involves ransomware or privacy breaches, or in what we were just listening with Michelle's operational technology. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, good to see you. So we have failures in operational technology that can have life safety implications. We can have privacy breaches, depending on what the privacy breach is, that can have life safety implications. So there's a whole lot more to the work we do in incident response and technology in general that really can be stressful on people, that can have big impacts. And when we're dealing with some of this stuff too, we're sometimes having to take people out of their regular operational mode and ask them to do different things. I think that's where I started.
Yesterday you said we don't need that server online. Today you say we need that server online before we can move to the next step. I can't work under these conditions. You keep moving the goalposts.
Anybody ever had that? Has anybody ever said that? Because they're not wrong, right? That is the classic IT guy who's been pushed some stuff. These are the instructions you have for tomorrow. This is what we need done. I think it was Dragos who coined the do now, do next, do never. And when you start telling people do never, they cross stuff off the list. I'm not saying that the mentality is wrong, but if you tell someone it's not important, we don't need to worry about that ever, or you give them any kind of indication that we never have to worry about that ever, then that gets knocked off the list. It's a real issue, because there are a whole lot of people out there in our organizations when we're dealing with crisis. I'm wired for this stuff, right? The cybersecurity equivalent of living life a quarter mile at a time. A lot of people aren't. They have other things going on in their lives, other things they want to do, other things that are already stressing them out, and we're asking them to act with speed. Plain language is really important as well, because not everybody understands all of our acronyms, all of our, special ways that we talk about things and threats and vulnerabilities and exposures and all that stuff. Plain language really helps. Another thing that I found that works really well is figuring out what language, especially the information technologists use. If you're a agile Kanban shop, push stuff to backlog. Yes, we have very important things we have to do right now. We have very important things we're going to stack up. Everything else is backlog. And information technology professionals who understand agile will get that naturally. So that's item number one. All of these quotes that I have in here, I got 8 of them, that was number 1. These are all things that have been tossed at me over the course of my career in incident response too. And some of them have really hit me. That one hit me pretty hard because I was like, well, what do you mean you weren't expecting to turn that server back on? And the answer was, because you told me it wasn't required. Oh, crap. So I had to do a lot of backpedaling there. And that's what this is about. What we're working on now, what we're working on next, we'll reevaluate in the future. Because the reality is we got stuff we got to get done. We're moving at velocity. We're not in normal operations mode. Stress is handled better by some than others as well. This one was another one that hit me kind of hard. This is one that actually goes back about 15 years.
Oh, hey, our team lead was just taken to the hospital by ambulance, crushing chest pain, really weird pulse. Just wondering who's going to lead our incident check-in call tomorrow morning?
You notice that this prick also didn't offer to do it himself? When I recorded these, so I actually brought back into my mind the people who had thrown some of these things at me over the years, and my middle kid helped me pick out some clothes and stuff. The original one that I had for that, I recorded and then I watched them again and I was like, wow, that is such a punchable face. Oh, so I had to back off a little bit, and I actually had to re-record those because it gave me a little bit of just horrible ideas of all those things. So where that quote came from, and it's happened at least once more in my career in incident response and doing crisis response, is people who have actually snapped. And it's not a badge of honor. It's nothing that we have that we should be proud of, that the incident response work we do is hurting people. In the case of that quote right there, that individual who ended up having to go to the hospital did have a major heart attack, ended up with a triple bypass, had all sorts of horrible other things going on in their life. They hadn't exercised in a couple of decades and had a whole lot of family stress too. But that's the reality of the work we do. Some people gravitate towards stress, some people don't. And that's something that I have become a little more angry about, is when people come at me and say things like, they knew what they were getting into when they signed up in this career. I thought I was getting in for 40 hours a week worth of monetary gain for my family, not, potentially needing an ambulance ride. So we don't know what's going on in other people's lives, especially when we jam them into crisis response with a million do nows and a million do nexts and all this pressure to say, well, sorry, it's all on you, Logan. Oh, by the way, I'm not making our 3:30 meeting. Yeah, sorry. But we're here, so as far as I'm concerned, we're good. But we're putting a lot of pressure on people in these things, and it can snap them. I've often put as well into incident response plans. When I have the opportunity to review an incident response plan with a company, one of the things that I always make sure is in there is a link or some sort of mention of the company's benefits plan. Most companies have a crisis hotline. Something you should be looking up yourselves is, what does my benefits provider give me if I need some help? And don't be afraid to use it. The bravado that comes with crisis response and information security, incident response, whatever we're calling what we do, really needs to evolve a little bit into we take care of each other along the path. There's no value in broken incident response superheroes. your dedication to your company will not get engraved onto your tombstone. And I'm not advocating, just bail at the first sign of trouble, but start doing things in your work. I made notes. Take breaks when you're in your prime, not until you've long passed it. Succession planning. If you are the only person that can do your job, you're already in trouble. Be less judgy. I actually have less judgy. It's one of my notes. Be less judgy of the people around you. The incident I worked on it was a very, very messy, very large ransomware incident in March. And there was some judginess going on when people were saying, yeah, you got me until it's Sunday. My daughter's 5th birthday is at 2 p.m. You've got me till 1:30. And people were going, really? Really? He's leaving for his daughter's 5th birthday? Yeah, absolutely. And if there is no succession planning available, then that's another failure. There's often a bigger picture in a lot of this stuff that sometimes we get our blinders on. And this next one is all about that, was me having my blinders on and getting something tossed at me that was a little bit freaky.
The attacker was Pinchy Spider. Pinchy Spider has been in our stuff for 8 weeks, and your only advice now is rebuild everything. Buy a whole bunch of new laptops, get a new cloud tenant, fill the legacy data center with coolant water from Chernobyl Reactor 4. Here's the deal. We have 3,500 employees who can't access anything right now. We're burning through $2 million in operating costs every day with nothing to show for it. We're already in a hole we might never climb out of. Rebuild everything? What else have you got?
I have been on both sides of that conversation where, my answer has been, you have no effective backups. You have an attacker who is an advanced persistent threat who's been in your environment. You need the scorched earth approach. You need to wipe everything, start from scratch, all new accounts, all new everything, and the response coming back of, that's not in the cards, right? In a couple of recent ones, that's been, the security team has come in and said, we can't give you any indication whatsoever that you can ever clean up from this. You cannot clean up. You're asking for a guarantee that you're going to be clean at the end of this. We cannot give it to you. Rebuild everything if that's what you want. And that's where this one came from, was no, not in the cards. There was stuff that we were finding in that environment that was fantastic. Anyone familiar with an RS-6000? Right? Like those are the big fridges that were in vogue when I was in high school in the 1990s, and they're still running. You cannot turn that thing off, because it's not just a flick the switch, turn it off, turn it back on. To get that system back on, you need specialized resources who don't exist in the market anymore. Or maybe there's one or two specialized people out there, but good luck finding them. Talk about succession planning. Other ones that call every customer. You have to make a phone call to every customer. That one was great, right? No, there's 14,000 customers, and you want us to make 14,000 phone calls? I don't know that we're going to do that. Just some of the demands that, as information security professionals, sometimes we push out to our clients, to our organizations that we work for, maybe aren't effective. Michelle talked about this. You had this up on the slide. Empathy. Empathy is incredibly important in information security. I remember being at a client session years and years and years ago where there were about 80 people in the room, and this was the entire operations division of this company. And the president of the company is standing up and he goes, okay, everybody, I got my whiteboard. Right here. I want to hear from you. What does this company do? And 80 people working in operations couldn't come up with a thing. We sell things. Okay, what kind of things do we sell? And I could see him going through the 5 stages of grief. It's like denial. Okay, we're gonna get some really good answers up here. And then he went to kind of, come on guys, we gotta get some good answers here. It's like, Okay, if anybody comes up with a good answer, I'll give you $5, right? Bargaining and all the, finally he got to acceptance and he quickly moved on to another topic. But the people who run these businesses we work for are typically pretty smart people, but they don't get us just as much as we don't get them. Very often, we don't understand what their motivations are. So that's where I often recommend to people, ask questions that are above your pay grade. I see that in large organizations and government organizations all the time. People say, above my pay grade. I'm not asking that question. If you want to be successful in incident response, in crisis, when stuff is going bad, ask questions that are far beyond what you should be usually privy to, and you'll find that a whole lot of people will unload on you. It's great. I love it. I'm not saying ever, don't, the note I have here, don't accept accountability for bad decisions. Because sometimes that's what the business leaders will bring down to us, is say, well, I'm going to do this. You're going to do this. This is the plan. Do this. And sometimes we have to make that choice. I've had to make that choice a couple times where I'm saying, okay, let's just get that in an email that we have recommended something and you're recommending something else. Sometimes I have never expected to get it in writing, and I've covered my butt simply by sending the email so that I can say, you were notified on such and such date that this was a bad idea, and you did it anyway. And I told you so's never feel good. Okay, they actually sometimes feel really good. But that covers our butts. So we're not taking accountability for their bad risk decisions. What we're doing is making sure that they are making risk-informed decisions. Sometimes the risk tolerance of a business owner who is in crisis is going to be very different than our risk tolerance as technology and cybersecurity professionals. Because, well, and Covey's, I think it's number 5 of the 7 habits of effective leaders. I'm trying to remember the book, it was a very long time ago. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. I think that we are all very smart people. If you're here, you're a smart, I believe that you are all smart people, especially you, Jeff. We're all very smart people. So sometimes, especially in crisis, we walk in as, the smart person has arrived. The smart person is here. Everybody should listen to me. But we have our own blinders on, and we're not going first and foremost to say, hey, am I right in assuming that this is more important than this? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. At no point does it ever actually say that we have to agree. And quite frankly, we're unpopular enough as it is.
How's it going? It's never a good time when we're on 3 calls a day with you, Adam.
That was the one that I wanted to punch. I have had, as someone who comes into organizations or have worked in organizations where we've done crisis response, that's one that I get fairly often. Because people are in crisis and they don't get that we're there to help. They just know that something bad has happened and this person is connected to the bad things happening, so I'm going to put all of my venom on Adam. Okay. Right? It's something we're going to have to accept, something we're going to have to take sometimes. And that's okay. The reality is we definitely have to be very mindful of the energy we want to bring with us to high stress environments. That particular one, that was actually the first time that I found that to be venomous. Because usually when someone's tossing something like that at you, it's some kind of, joke, right? It's someone's attempt at being funny. And sometimes it is funny. Sometimes it's very entertaining. Sometimes it's really from a place of fear, that you've got somebody that you're working with in a fear spike who sees your face on the Teams call or in the boardroom, and just you being there as the crisis handler, as the incident responder, as the person who is trying your best to solve these problems is sending their blood pressure through the roof. And a couple things that we can do to get better at that. Deciding what kind of energy we want to bring to do we want to be energy positive? Do we want to be someone who is a booster, someone who is helping people really come to terms with what's going on and what's required of them. Do we want to be an energy vampire? I hope not. We all have those people in our lives too who are just sucking energy from our lives. And we don't necessarily want to be that. Do we want to be someone who is seen, regardless of what we're doing in crisis response, do we want to be seen as someone who can handle things? Or do we end up being seen as someone who maybe requires handling? And it depends on the situation. Sometimes I'm both. I think sometimes we all are. Something that can help us with introspection on that, a little bit of an out-of-body experience. Something that I've coached a couple people in doing that they've used has been helpful. Team calls are great for this because if you got somebody who's using a headset, they can record their performance with no fear. If all they're getting is one side of what they're doing, record yourself and listen to yourself back. I watch these videos, and believe me, I'm cringing all the way through. It's brutal. But record yourself, play it back, find out how your energy is coming across. Do that out-of-body experience to try and figure out who you are, and what you're doing. Something that I found is really helpful, especially with people like that one. Greet everyone like you're greeting an old friend. Harvinder, my brother. Right? Greet everyone like you're greeting an old friend. And you'll find that those people will come back to you with that toxicity gone and some of their fear opening with vulnerability. And that's an amazing thing too, because then you can get real performance out of everybody. You can get real goals reached by everybody all together. Gratitude. Approaching things with gratitude and really saying, Harvinder, this was a great BSides, probably the best organized BSides I've ever seen in my entire life. Even on my way here, I hit construction out of my hotel, and then I hit a wall of traffic on the Yellowhead, and then I was like, instead of going, oh crap, it took me 45 minutes to take what should have been an 18-minute drive. Hey, I got here and I didn't get lost. Thank you, Google Maps. Right? A little bit of gratitude definitely changes our own mindset to how we approach these things, but things like greeting everyone like an old friend, the authenticity has to be there. Gratitude, the authenticity has to be there. If you're faking it, people will know. So do what's authentic in there. It's all been really philosophical stuff. Oh.
You wanted that patient 0 and patient 1 laptops for a full forensic analysis? Nobody told me that. I erased them and I put them back into production.
So I felt really bad for that IT guy because the CIO came after him and said, what the hell were you thinking? Nobody told him that they went scorched earth and they needed to come up with 400 laptops tomorrow. Here were a couple of laptops sitting on a shelf, had their service tags on them, so they put them into production. They wiped them and put them into production. It happens. Then they tried coming after me and saying, hey, Adam, how the hell did this happen? And I was like, where was it written down that they shouldn't have been put back into production? And it wasn't. Other ones that have happened in cases like this where stuff isn't written down. Backups. This is a very, very common one where people say, I got 30 days worth of backups, and we're on day 36 of an incident response, and somebody says, ooh, we need those 3 machines from 30 days ago. Well, can't get them anymore because we overwrote them with ransomed data. Hooray! So things like, pause your backups if all your data's crap anyways. In one case, there was a network device that sent a power off command that could only be reached by ice roads, and it was August. So the devices weren't being turned back on ever again. Well, okay, it was about 6 months later. Don't wait to write down your responsibilities. All of us are responsible for things in our lives. All of us. Right? Whether that's our personal lives, our professional lives, whatever. We are accountable for things. So if there are things that you are going to be held responsible for in crisis, write them down ahead of time. We all have, OneNote or Google Keep, paper and pen, doesn't matter. But if we can start just making these little notes about the things that we're going to need to pull out of our back pocket in crisis, when your stress level is up here, you're not thinking clearly enough. So if you're thinking, I'll have that, I'll get that, no problem. Chances are it actually could be a problem. Atul Gawande's The Checklist Manifesto is one of my favorite books because it talks about actually doing those sorts of things. What are the 7 things that I need to just simply remind myself of that will keep the lights on or put the lights back on? And there's no cop that'll come and arrest you for a little bit of pre-incident planning. If you're not responsible for incident response planning, I don't recommend telling anyone you're even doing this, because then they'll make you responsible for it, and then you lose all your hair. It's brutal. Another one, this one was good too.
What do you mean the bill's already $25,000? I haven't even authorized any work yet.
I've seen this a number of times too, whether it's a contractor who comes in and the security team going, wait till the client sees the bill on this one. Aren't we valuable now? If the client is going to be surprised by a bill, then we've already done something wrong ahead of time, right? Or in some cases, there was an investigations team that I was working with where they were poking into data with people that they had no business poking into data with. That ended up getting a whole bunch of people in trouble. So asking those questions ahead of time. What am I authorized to do? C, what is this going to cost? In the case of contractor-led or client and service provider interactions, it can be something as simple as, I think this is going to be 20 hours worth of work to look at. Do you want to authorize that? Or if you're in an employment environment where you ask the question, I need to drop everything for 2 days and work on that. Is that okay? Find that person who's accountable for those sorts of things and start asking those questions. We all want to go and poke at Pinchy Spider and doing our malware analysis and discovering what all the lateral movement was and attribution and stuff. And we tend to forget the unsexy things like, let's actually make sure that between detection and analysis, we've got authorization to actually go do some things. That will save relationships, it'll save jobs. And one of the things that is really important too is it really helps you understand first and foremost. Something that is a big mess is understanding the problem we're actually trying to solve first.
What's the problem and when did it start? I'd been on the call bridge for about 72 hours, but I don't think I could just describe the problem other than everything is.
So this one is very, very relevant because when things are going really bad, sometimes it's incredibly difficult to describe why things are going bad, to prioritize what's going bad, to figure out, and don't get me, I hate big call bridges. That's some leftover from some anachronistic process of, we'll get all the smart people in the room and the smart people will go and solve all the problems, but the smart people aren't getting any direction to actually go and do anything. All they're doing is assuming other people are doing things. It's like going to the pool party. We're having a party in someone's backyard and there's a pool. Everyone's watching the kids in the pool, which means no one's watching the kids in the pool. That's what those big call bridges often end up in, is a whole lot of people waiting for someone to do something. The idea of a problem statement, so I started writing this into playbooks, incident response playbooks, and people were questioning me originally. It's like, no, we want a playbook on how to handle ransomware. I'm like, okay, we'll write that too, but wouldn't it be great if your junior people who are not used to doing this kind of work also had a little one-pager that said, to describe the problem we're trying to solve, we want to do these steps. That our business objectives that we serve in this organization are this. It's these 4 basic things. And if there's a problem, we're going to uncover it by doing this, this, and this. And then we can describe the problem. Often, when you're dealing with a major business crisis, it's not one problem, it's going to be several. Okay, you can do that all together. And then you bring them together and you call them a common operating picture. Because if you've really got the big one, what you're going to have out of that is a whole bunch of people who aren't information technology or cybersecurity professionals. You're going to have lawyers. You're going to have privacy specialists. You're going to have business leaders. And you have to explain to them in their words, what the hell is going on with the technology? What is going on with their customers? What is threatening their ability to do business? So that becomes really important. And simple formula that I pulled out of emergency services, I think I've talked about it at every BSides Edmonton, the CAN report, conditions, actions, needs. Just a quick formula for you to say, here's what I know about what's going on. Here's what we're currently doing, and here's what I need from you, the audience, whether that's a decision, whether that's budget, whether that's approvals, whether that's more technologists. Conditions, actions, needs. It really, really does work. You should be able to deliver that. In teams where we've gotten good with this, we can go around a room with 20 people in it. They all get 90 seconds to deliver their sit rep, their situation report. Conditions, actions, needs, 90 seconds each. We go around the room, we get everything done. It works really well. I like this one.
My top 3 priorities? You want my top 3 priorities, Adam, you donkey? I have 50.
Oh, I hate that guy. So, 5 stages of grief. I would say that person is probably still sitting at denial. He says he's got 50 priorities. Chances are he's not doing any of them. But it gets worse. Eventually.
You're asking for my top 3 priorities. My top 3 priorities, Adam, you donkey. I have 50.
Oh, we've elevated to anger. We got an angry one there. Yeah, and crisis response gets people angry. And what gets people more angry than crisis response is having too many priorities, having too many things that are kicking their butt, stressing them out.
Oh God, he's asking for my top 3 priorities. Top 3 priorities, Adam, you donkey. I have 50.
And that one, I think, is an acceptance, knowing that none of those 50 priorities are going to get done, or his 50 priorities will be superseded by somebody else's priorities. Talking about badge of honor and incident response is tough, and you got to be tough to do this job. I hate that crap. What is more difficult for me is when people come back to me and they say, Adam, I got 50 priorities. I can't just tell you what my top 3 are. The first one I even talked about, do now, do next, right? Do now, just get out of bed, Adam. Do next, brush your teeth, right? We have to find a way to, if we want to keep moving forward, if we want to do nothing for 72 hours on a call bridge, hey, none of this is worthwhile. If we actually want to keep moving forward, we have to reprioritize. And there's some relatively simple ways to do this. If everything's a priority, nothing is, right? 2 questions. There's only 2 questions that I feel are necessary to help us get there. What's important now, and what's in my control? And I navigated the pandemic with a family of high energy teenagers using this too, right? Navigate lots of crisis using this. If it's not in your control, if you cannot steer the outcome, then why are you expending your limited energy on that objective? If you've got 50 priorities and you can't do anything about the outcome of 45 of them, well, that's 45 that you can put on backlog. And what's important now, I guarantee that if you looked at whatever's left, you will find that there are a small number of things that really have to happen in order. Because if something's not important now, but it feels like it should be, chances are the measurement of success for that outcome will change 5 times before it actually becomes important. What's important now and what's in my control. What this also helps with is post-incident analysis. The world of high-definition video and 4K resolution and super high speed. I'm going to go catch the football. Oh, his foot was way out. Like, you could see his foot was like, he's going to go catch the football and his foot is just a millimeter out. But you can see it in high resolution, high definition television. That kind of mindset has permeated into everything we do. Fort McMurray wildfires, and everybody was applauding and high-fiving the fire chief and director of emergency management when that happened. Then all the armchair quarterbacks came out and said, wow, that guy was a muppet. And he was just doing the best he could with the information he had and the resources at his disposal. He was doing the best he could with what was important now and what was in his control. We're going to see the same thing. We're seeing it already in Northwest Territories. You've evacuated Yellowknife and you're not letting people back, and while you're a bunch of jerks, they're doing the best with what they know, the information they have, with what's important now and what's in their control. So for really, really big crisis, it also works for really little crisis. I was at the airport on a flight to Winnipeg, and the flight got canceled. Not delayed, it was just canceled. But to one of the people working in my organization, it was like, Adam, it's a must be. You must be in Winnipeg tomorrow morning. And my answer was, there are no flights that can get me to Winnipeg for tomorrow morning. Do you want me to expense a cab? Do you want me to expense a limo? No? Okay, well, then we understand what important really is. And apparently it was not $15,000 for a limo ride to Winnipeg. That would have been awesome. I would have gotten sleep. I would have drank a bottle of wine. It would have been fantastic. Crashes that happen on Highway 2 in the middle of winter, these multi-car pileups. What's important now? What's in my control? Safety. I have my family in my car. I'm going to go find a nice safe spot up in the other side of the ditch. And what's not in my control? Anybody else's safety. For some reason, car crashes, even when I'm a pedestrian, they gravitate towards me. And the last one that happened right in front of my house, it was hilarious. I'm like, dude, can you please stop standing in the middle of the road? I know you just crashed your car into a parked car, but there's no reason for you to be standing in the middle of the road. He was still out of my control. But focusing on what's in our control, what's important now. That butt covering that comes at the end, that is something that is really helpful for all of us too, is to be able to go back and justify. Why did you make that decision, Adam? It was something that we could control, and it was immediately important. That's why we did what we did. And when we're having our own, the cortisol is gone, the adrenaline is gone, sometimes it becomes really difficult to release that stress in our own lives. And you sit awake at night and ask that question, did I do everything I could have done? Did I do it right? Was there a different decision I could have made that would have made things go differently? And sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is yes, and we try to learn from those. So if you're predisposed to depression, things like this can help you live with the decisions you've made and just keep moving forward, because there's so much that really is out of our control. Priorities, health, empathy, energy, butt covering. For all of you that are here, I really do appreciate you. I appreciate you all. I really genuinely hope that if you find yourselves in some crisis event, that you will find a way to navigate it the best way you can. I don't know if we want to do questions or anything, or if we just want to get the heck out of here. Is there anyone with anything burning on their mind? Michelle wants to heckle, I know. We've left her speechless. Yeah, well. My name is Adam. I really appreciate you all. I believe you will all be awesome in your next business crisis, because it's just a matter of when, not if. Thank you all very much. Welcome to BSides, Edmonton.